Hi, friend. Here we are, week 2 of our Exodus journey, and I am excited. I hope that you have enjoyed your own study in, what is this, Exodus chapter 3. Oh my goodness, this is exciting. I have received a lot of comfort from today's lesson. I think this is a continuation of us digging into that question: when circumstances don't make sense, can we trust God? And I'll show you, I'll show you where I ended up with that, or how I ended up with that. I really want to focus today's lesson on answering that golden question. What does this passage have to say about who God is? And also, what is it that we learn about Moses? I've got a lot to share, so I'm just going to dig right in. That first question, the detective question, is who? Well, this story, or this biblical account, is about Moses and the Lord, right? That's pretty obvious. And then I asked where. I think that's important for today's lesson. And Moses tells us that he's on the west side of the wilderness at Mount Horeb, also known as Mount Sinai. And if you looked up any cross references, we're going to see Mount Sinai elsewhere in our journey of Exodus, our journey with the Israelites and with Moses and the Lord. All right, so that's the who, that's the where, and the what. The what. All right, I summarize here. I'm just going to tell you my main point, or my main points. God comes down. That's the what. God comes down. He appears to Moses in the form of a burning bush that is not consumed. And, God comes down. He draws himself to Moses, or he draws Moses to himself through this burning bush. And he reiterates his promise to Moses, this Abrahamic promise that we've been talking about, that God made to Abraham, was passed down to Isaac and then Jacob, and to Moses' own father, Amram. And then he sends Moses to Pharaoh to help bring the Israelites out of Egypt. He's calling Moses to himself and to do the work that he is calling him to do. All right, maybe that's not a very articulate way to say it, but I hope you know what I mean. All right, so there's the who, where, and what. I think, let me just say this. For those of us, and this includes myself, who have been a part of the church, have read their Bibles for many, many years, and are very familiar with this story, I think we can lose sight of just how miraculous this is. Friends, here is an encounter. Moses encounters the Lord himself. Yeah. What do we do with that? Let's just sit in that for a little while. I think it is important in this account for us to really zoom in on what is it I learn about who God is. And what is it we learn about Moses too? Why does God appear to Moses? Here's what I came up with when circumstances don't make sense. We start off with Moses. Now, Moses was keeping the flock of his father-in-law, Jethro, the priest of Midian, and he led his flock to the west side of the wilderness and came to Horeb, the mountain of God. That stopped me in my tracks. That's why I went to the cross references that I mentioned earlier. Here is Moses. Look at the journey that Moses himself has been on. What have we learned about him so far? Moses was born good as dead, right? All the baby boys were to be thrown into the Nile River. He was as good as dead the day he was born. God rescued him then, right? The Pharaoh's daughter draws him out of the water. What happens then? Moses becomes an Egyptian prince. Like, what a storybook life he gets to live, or at least in our minds, he does. He has the life of a rich man. He has so many benefits, worldly benefits given to him. He has plenty of food. He has clothing. He has education. He's living in the palace. So he has a very different life. He has all these benefits of an Egyptian prince, such that I think he could think of himself as all that and more. But he is still very much Hebrew, and he ends up identifying with the Hebrews, and he murders a man. So he exiles to Midian. He is a murderer. He is an exile. And now we see him keeping the flock of his father-in-law. This isn't his own flock. He has not incurred wealth. I think this is a sign that he is still very much a poor man, and he is under submission to his father-in-law, Jethro, and he's a shepherd. This is a very humble role. And if we look at the cross-reference for this, we would see in Acts chapter 7, in Stephen's speech, that perhaps Moses has been doing this for 40 years. It's as if he's acclimated to this. Friends, Moses is humble. Like, we don't get a sense that he is discontent here, or he is grumbling or complaining. No, it's just very matter of fact that he is shepherding the sheep, and he ends up on this mountain of God. And we have this beautiful encounter. So just want for us to keep in mind where Moses has been, his journey, really his humility, and that the circumstances he is in right now make zero sense whatsoever. Can we trust God when circumstances don't make sense? Yes. Yes. God comes down. What do we see about God? God appears. God appears to Moses in a flame. God calls, Moses, Moses. Now, I always thought this was a warning, like, Moses, Moses. No. But if we can put on our ancient Near East glasses, we will see this is almost a call of endearment. Using someone's names twice is saying, like, when Jesus said to Martha, Martha, that was a term of endearment. Martha, Martha, I see you. I hear you. I see your need. I see that you are distracted about many things. Moses, Moses. Careful here. Careful. So really, it's a term of endearment. It's God's grace. Number 3, God instructs. I think we see his grace. This warning is his grace. Actually, his appearance, his call to Moses, 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 and then he instructs him. Look, sorry, I can't see. Do not come near. Take your sandals off your feet, for the place on which you are standing is holy ground. He just gives Moses instructions on how to behave here. Moses was curious. God knew exactly how to draw Moses to himself. And now he instructs him on how to behave. This is God's grace. Next, God tells him, look, I am the God of your father, Amram. I love that. I'm the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, the God of Jacob. I'm the God of your patriarchs. I'm the God of your people. And then at that moment, Moses hid his face because he was afraid to look at God. And friends, that just seems like an appropriate response, does it not? If God showed himself as something burning right here at my table, I think I would fall, I hope I would fall flat on my face too. You know what I mean? This just shows Moses' humility once again. But God goes on to assure Moses that he is there to help. We look at verse 7. Then the Lord said, I have surely seen the affliction of my people. And he tells Moses, look, I see, I have heard them, I know them. Oh, we saw this last week. Don't you love this about God? God is a God who sees and knows and hears when circumstances don't make sense, when we are suffering, when people are suffering. God sees, he hears, he knows. And what do we see today? God comes down to deliver his people. That's what he says. Verse 8, I have come down to deliver them out of the hand of the Egyptians and to bring them up out of that land to a good and broad land. God comes down to deliver, to rescue his people from bondage. Haven't we seen this in Jesus Christ too, friends? He wants to not just not just come down, and not just deliver them, but to bring them up, to help them live in this promised land. Here's that second promise of his covenant to Abraham. He's already made them a great nation while they have been in Egypt. Now he's going to take them to the promised land. Oh, friends, when circumstances don't make sense, can we trust him? Moses is saying, yes, 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 we can trust him. What else do I see? God calls Moses. God is going to use Moses to be his helper in this adventure. And he promises Moses, I will be with you. Here's a promise we can hold on to as well. Oh, friends, application for today. I tell you what, just getting on our knees and praising God for who he is, that he is a God who sees and hears and knows our suffering. And he is a God who comes down. We see it here with Moses on behalf of his people. We've seen it through Jesus Christ, his son, in the New Testament. Oh, friends, here is God's grace. We can know that God is a God of steadfast love and faithfulness. Oh, let's just praise him.